I took a promise for next at least 5 to 6 talks once a month, last Wednesday of every month. Then we came up with Bhaja Govindam, a simple yet profound Sanskrit text by Adi Shankara. And without taking any of Satyam Garu's time, I just hand over the podium to Satyam Garu. Over to you. Over to you, sir.
Matrudevo bhava, Pitrudevo bhava, Acharya Devo bhava. Om Sri Ganapati Satchidananda Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Sri Ganeshaya Namaha. Sri Saraswatyai Namaha. Sri Padavallabha Narasimha Saraswati. Sri Guru Dattatreya Namaha. Om Namo Hanumate Namaha. Dear fellow spiritual seekers,
sir, do we have your permission to record this?
Yes, indeed.
Over to, yeah, please record. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Dear fellow spiritual seekers and embodiments of love, my humble pranams to all of you. I'm very honored and humbled to be a part of this group. And I would like to sincerely and especially thank Dr. Venkata Naktaraj Garu for providing me this opportunity to present a series of lectures on Sri Adi Shankara's Paja Govindam. Paja Govindam is a masterpiece of Sri Adi Shankara for the spiritual regeneration of humanity that's caught in vital snares or traps of lust, greed, and envy. Paja Govindam, as many of you know, it is a cure for the Kama Krodha fever of worldly men. It induces the Vedantic inquiry or the Tattva Vicharana of who am I? The fundamental primordial question, Koham, who am I? And it leads the seekers to self-peace and bliss, the Satchidananda or Brahmananda. India, as we all know, is the land of saints and sages. It has been for centuries that way, working very, very hard, laboring against a great art. The tree of Sanatana Dharma, or the Sanatana Dharma Vriksha, it has not only been shading us and shielding us and protecting us from difficulties and hardships, but it also has been constantly reviving, restoring our spirit, strengthening our faith, and brightening our outlook at every twist and turn of fate. Unfortunately, the countless foreign invasions and their burning desire to grab and snatch away our dazzling wealth of our country, they have scorched the delicate shoots of this tree of Sanatana Dharma. The leaves have withered or faded away and fallen in the hurricane and in the cyclone of social evils, communal fights and quarrels. They have knocked down the branches of the Sanatana Dharma tree to the ground. While differences in tongue, meaning the mother tongue, somebody's mother tongue is Punjabi, somebody's mother tongue is Telugu, somebody's mother tongue is Tamil, etc., etc., etc. And we speak a multitude of languages. So these lingual differences and these regional disharmonies or the Prantiya disharmonies, they have deprived us all of its fruit of this Sanatana Dharma. The active resistance, the opposition, or may I call antagonism, that was spread by religious fanatics and their ideological tyrannies, destroyed even the unripe fruit. The conspiracies of the crafty politicians and the nasty politicians, and, of course, the self-motives of the irresponsible people and the populace, they have suppressed the young berries and the buds in the dust to begin with. So the purpose of tonight's talk is an introduction to Adi Shankara's work on Paja Govindam and lay the foundation for it. And then I think there are overall about 30 shlokas or something. And we will, talk about them as time goes on. Now, it is surprising that despite India having faced unexpected obstacles and inextricable difficulties for ages, our culture, with its grandeur and massiveness, it is still as rich as it was at its start and as it was at its beginning. Can we imagine, can you think of any other country in similar circumstances? I guarantee you that it would have been quietly wiped out of existence if it was not for India, and remained only to be mentioned in history books. But India survived despite the foreign invasions, despite the efforts to oppress the Sanatana Dharma and the culture. India is a land of immortal seers. Whenever there was a threat of its sacred culture and the Dharma sinking into insignificance, mighty masters of wisdom, we call Mahatmas, we may call Godmen, they descended to earth to protect and safeguard the Dharma and its existence. That's the reason why our tree of Sanatana Dharma is evergreen and the flow of our culture perennial. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata apyuthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this is the 7th verse or the 7th shloka. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata apyuthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham. Whenever dharma is in danger, whenever it was in peril, and adharma flourishing, I will take birth to save it. That's what Lord Krishna's message was and is in the Bhagavad Gita. It is uniquely characteristic of our Hindu culture to revere, respect, and worship these Mahatmas or the religious revivalists as Godmen or God incarnations, as Avatara Purushas. Lord Shiva, he descended to earth as Adi Shankara to give new life and new vigor to the immortal tree of Sanatana Dharma, to revivify when it grew dull, dry, lifeless, under contaminating influence of Buddhism. the dark clouds of conflicting and I would say contradictory ideologies that positioned and that hovered over the society, they were scattered. They were blown away by the cool breeze of Shankara's Advaita philosophy. See, Shankara nicely nurtured and very aptly nourished the tree of Sanatana Dharma with what I call the water of tradition or the Sat Sampradaya Jalam and manure of equanimity. Equanimity means it is referred to as a Samadarshana, the ability to view at everything with same mind. That is the equanimity. So with the manure or the fertilizer of equanimity and the water of tradition, so Shankara, he nourished the tree of Sanatana Dharma and he saved it from ever being extinct, it being the Sanatana Dharma ever being extinct. The tree of Sanatana Dharma does foster in the loving hands of Adi Shankara, and it of course yielded the divine fruit or the Divya Palam of Advaita to all of us. The preachings of Advaita philosophy are very simple, very accurate, very precise, very exact. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is true. The world is an illusion. Although the Jiva or the Dehi or the Jivatma, out of his ignorance, believes himself to be different from the Brahman. In reality, he is not. They're one and the same. God is the only effulgent truth. God is the only one that is a nityam, that is a satyam, that's a perennial, that's a shastvatam, that's eternal, that exists. And you are God. And this is the dictum, meaning a formal pronouncement from an authoritative source of Advaita philosophy. It explains scientifically and with scriptural authenticity that God is the transcendental reality behind all this world panorama, behind all this wider view and unbroken view, which is but of a purely empirical existence. What do I mean by empirical existence? Empirical, in my mind, it refers to, it's based on experience or observation, rather than basing it on some kind of a theory or some tarka or some logic. Advaita philosophy, it did not, I repeat, Advaita philosophy, it did not begin with Adi Shankara. Prior to him, Brahmadatta, Gaudapadacharya, and Vasistha, all of them had endeavored to give these doctrines, meaning a set of beliefs. They have given a very solid, fundamental, substantial form and shape. Attempts were again made after Shankara with equal fervor, with equal intensity and passionate feeling and enthusiasm by a few others, such as Vidyaranya Swami, for example, Vachaspati, Chitsukha, and lastly, Madhusudana Saraswati, for crystallizing the theories and dogmas of Advaita in their writings and for giving it a very, very, very sound base to it. However, the credit of having founded the Advaita philosophy goes to Shankara alone and to him alone, and it's rightfully so for a good reason. And what is that reason? After all, it was Shankara who truly systematized the knowledge of various prophets and masters by correlating and coordinating all their ideas and concepts, and succeeded in evolving a totally complete philosophy. With his ingenuity, meaning with his originality, with his creativity, Shankara, he strung the multicolored flowers with these, which these sages had offered into a beautiful, wonderful, nice, gorgeous garland for adoring the Lord. In recent years, the fragrance of Shankara's Advaita philosophy, if I may say, it has crossed the Atlantic and has crossed the Pacific Ocean as well and entered the foreign lands. Sick at heart, very, very sick at heart with materialism, meaning with Vishaya Bhavana, with Vishaya Vasana, the intelligentsia, and the word intelligentsia, I'm using it here to refer to group of highly educated intellectuals possessing cultural or political influence. So the intelligentsia of the European and the American countries acclaimed the Advaita philosophy as an elixir. It's a medical potion, a medicinal potion for their low spirit and worn out souls, and extolled these intelligentsia, the intelligentsia of the Westerners, extolled Shankara as the father of Advaita philosophy beyond the shadow of a doubt for his profound wisdom and judgment. The works of distinguished scientists like Sir Albert Einstein, Eddington, they further fortified and strengthened the Advaita philosophy, making it crystal clear that all the scientific discoveries and all the inventories that were made, they have been the expression of one thing, and that is man's inner urge to try and reach the pinnacle of excellence, the summit of excellence, which Advaita is. They acknowledge it with admiration that we were much, much, much ahead of the Westerners, who still engaged themselves even today in childish argument about seeing and believing things. Just because somebody went to college, just because somebody had an MD degree or a PhD degree or something else, now they say, you show me, where is the evidence? Otherwise, I can't believe it. And that's utter nonsense. So we were much ahead of the Westerners who still engaged themselves in childish arguments about seeing and believing things. And this is what they said. For we have been able to discern through wisdom. We, meaning the Indians, the Indian mighty masters of wisdom, our masters, our gurus, our sadgurus, our avatara purushas, they have been able to discern and see through wisdom the soul spirit, which is the invisible substratum of the multiformed physical world. While Shankara stated the truth was beyond the grasp of mind and intellect, he said it was beyond the mind and intellect. It's very difficult to comprehend. What is that when you say somebody is a Sat Purusha? When something is a Sat Padardham, what is that Sat? That Sat is the one that is Shuddha, Buddha, Nitya, Niranjana, Chaitanya, Swarupa. It only has a Swarupa. It does not have a Rupa. It does not have a form. It does not have a shape. It does not have a body. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. You can't feel it. So while Shankara stated that this truth what is meant by Sat, this was beyond the grasp of human mind and intellect. There was a German philosopher and one of the Enlightenment thinkers of all times. And he was Immanuel Kant. He opined, he was of the opinion that human intellect, it distorted the vision of the truth because your mind comes into play. When the mind comes into play and your intellect starts to fiddle around, the truth gets distorted. The same has been interpreted by Sir Arthur Stanley Eddington differently. And who is this Eddington? I mean, to me, he was a great, and he is in my mind, he's one of the greatest thinkers of all time. He was an English astronomer. He was an English physicist, a mathematician, a philosopher, and he was a fellow of the Royal Society, the highest honor that could be given away in England. And he said, limited by mind and limited by intellect. These are not my words. In direct quote, he said, Eddington said, limited by mind and limited by intellect and split up by the senses, our vision does not permit us to view the truth as it is, in its completeness, in its entirety, in its totality. Therefore, Sri Shankara emphasizes the need to rectify our vision, to fix our vision, to correct our vision in order to see the world in the right perspective. He tries to correct that differential vision of the mind with an ointment for healing, what we call the salve of wisdom. Jnananjana Shalakaya. So this is a Jnananjana. So an ointment for healing is the salve of wisdom. See, Shankara was born in a village named Kaladi in Kerala to a very devout couple, a very dedicated couple, Sivaguru and Aryamba. He was a gift of God to his parents, and as such, he was born with a precocious wisdom. What do I mean by precocious? We say someone has precocious wisdom when that someone had developed certain abilities at a much, much, much earlier age than usual, because he or she was a gift of God. At the age of 8, Shankara mastered Vedas. He was born in southern India. He acquired the knowledge in central India. And finally, he ascended the seat of the highest honor, what is called the Sarvajñapita in northern India. At a very, very young age, he walked across the country, spreading the doctrines of Advaita philosophy. He traveled from Kanyakumari in the south to Kashmir in the farthest north, to visiting every temple and every pilgrim place. He rebuilt the temples in ruins, and those were in dilapidated conditions. He corrected and improved ritualism. And he organized the monks floating around, wandering over the country as they felt, as they liked. So what Shankara did, he brought them all together. He organized the monks wandering all over the country and brought certain order to that. And this is a system Sri Shankara established. And this system is called the Dashanami Sannyasis. They belong to one of the 10 orders. Dashanami, Dasha is a 10. Dashanami Sannyasis. So of 10 orders, 10 names. I don't recall all the 10 of them, I apologize, but The bottom line is, I can mention a few of them here. Of the 10 orders, some of them are Aranya. That means whoever would come into this order, Aranya is one order. For example, Vidyaranya Swami. So in the name, at the end of it as a suffix, that Aranya goes. Giri is the other order of the Dashanamis. Second order is Giri. For example, we all know Gita Makarandam, who used it, Vidya Prakashananda Giri Swami. So Giri, so he belonged to that particular order of the Giri order of the Dashanami. Bharati is the other one, Shuddhananda Bharati. So those in the tradition will all be named Bharatis at the end. Saraswati, Jayendra Saraswati, Vijayendra Saraswati. In the same way, you do have some Tirtha, Vana, Ashrama, Parvata, etc., etc. But total, about 10 of them. And that is a system that was established, the Dashanami Sannyasis system was established by Adi Shankara to bring some order and decrease the entropy or the disorder. With the advent of Sri Shankara, Buddhism that was somewhat indomitably prevalent, almost impossible to subdue at that time, and that was very prevalent in India. Now, it fled for life and sought refuge in the neighboring countries of China and Tibet. Now, even after 1200 years of its departure, it did not have the courage to return to its native land and reclaim its position. So tremendous and enduring was the influence of Sri Shankara on the spiritual life of Indians, and so powerful was a Hinduism made. Popular belief is, unfortunately, the belief was, and it still is, that it was Sri Shankara who uprooted Buddhism from India, and that he was the cause for it to become extinct in our country. Really, this is a false and very erroneous judgment. Buddha, honestly, he had never aimed at establishing a new religion. That was not his intent. He never aimed to do that. His endeavor, his efforts were to remove the social inequalities existing those days, abolish the evil customs, the rituals, the evil rituals and ceremonies that were prevalent in those days. Moreover, the moral principles and the ethical values taught by Buddha, they were not any different from what Hinduism preached, for example. Buddha, he truly fought very vigorously. He strove to dispel the darkness that covered or that enveloped the social, the moral, the spiritual aspects of the society and worked for its welfare. His intentions were purely reformatory. He was a reformist. His intentions were purely reformatory. And they were not really directed towards founding a new religion. That was not his intent. Shankara, coming to think of it, he was an evolutionary. He was an evolutionist. He was not an abolitionist. He did not want to abolish anything. More precisely, do we consider Shankara as an individual? I hope not. He is truly a samstha, a vyavastha, an institution, rather than a mere individual. Those who are impatient and emotional, they run after several gurus, but the sensible and the steadfast, they seek a single guru with the dedication and devotion. Sri Shankara is the one and only refuge for such a true and spiritual aspirant. What do you mean by Shankara? What do the words stand for? Sham karoti iti Shankaraha. Sham karoti iti Shankaraha. Sham means auspiciousness, mangalam. So Shankara means the bestower of happiness. Shankara was a karma yogi who lived for the upliftment of humanity. He traveled untiringly, spreading religion and renovating temples. See, Shankara was a great devotee. He sowed the seeds of devotion in the hearts of the laity, the ordinary people, through prayers, astakas, shatkas, stotras, songs, and whatnot, which he composed. He successfully established certain pithas, the mathas or the mutts, monasteries, on all sides of the country, which even today stand as beacon lights, guiding and helping the spiritual seekers along the path of sadhana. most ingeniously planned, they illustrate his judgment, his good judgment rather, by use of reasoning and wisdom. As a social reformer, as a Sangha Sanskarta, he eliminated treacherous, dishonest, unscrupulous forces that harmed the society under the cloak of religion. He plunged the people into rapturous adoration with his affluent, exuberant writings. If any of you have read any of his works of stotras or shatkas and astakas and his Janga Prayata, you know his writings were exuberant. Beautiful poetry flows with the luxuriance of expression and rhythm. That laya, that niyati, that laya, Prasanna Gambhira, his writings are said to be of the character called Prasanna Gambhira. They were simple, yet very, very, very deep. Shankara's abundant and varied skills, they are very marvelous, and they are unmatched and unsurpassed. With his keen intelligence, with his insight, with his broad vision, he discovered the treasure of wisdom and gave away the gems of knowledge to the world. His enlightening expositions of the Brahma Sutras, the Upanishads, and the Gita, together this triad is known as Prasthanatraya. They illustrate his brilliance and his scholarship. He showers his grace upon them through his excellent works, such as Sivananda Lahari and Paja Govindam, written in a very easy, simple, and lucid style and form. They are both edifying. What do you mean by edifying? They give moral instructions, intellectual instruction. They're very appealing to the common man, to the ordinary man. And they all reflect Shankara's benignity, meaning his kindness to others, and graciousness, his civility, his politeness, his respect to fellow mankind, to fellow man. The text we are now about to discuss is the famous Paja Govindam, written by Sri Shankara to benefit the entire mankind. Amongst all his writings, all his works, amongst them, this is very popular and it's exceedingly acceptable to the common man and the learned alike. Why? For two reasons, we might say. First of all, it reminds man It reminds us of what our end aim and purpose of life is. It clearly strikes it out, brings it out. What's the purpose of our life? What's the aim and purpose of our life? Secondly, it also suggests a course of action to be taken to fulfill, to accomplish, to achieve that goal. It not only points out the hurdles in this path to success, but also shows feasible and practical methods of overcoming those roadblocks and hurdles. Holding hand, it guides him lovingly and caringly along the path of spirituality and unites man with the divine, the Jivatma with the Paramatma. One day, Sri Shankara, he roamed along the streets of Kasi, Varanasi, followed by his disciples. Sri Shankara happened to see an older Brahmin, a pedantic scholar. Pedantic meaning one who is excessively concerned with formality, formalism, accuracy, and precision. There is no margin for error in the pronunciation or whatever was suggested to be recited just the way it should be. So he ran into this pedantic scholar, and he was vainly displaying his learning in grammar, Vyakarana Shastra. Moved by sympathy towards this completely and overwhelmingly tired man, he already retired from his work. So he is in the autumn of his life, and he yet failed to appreciate the value of life. And he still was not focused on turning Godwards or turning inwards. Extemporaneously, in Telugu we call it as Ashu. So extemporaneously or Ashuga, Sri Shankara recites a shloka that means, "Oh ignorant, sing the glory of Govinda, sing the praises of Govinda, because your vast learning and knowledge will not save you from impending death." Unhappy with the sorrowful and deplorable, pitiable condition of the worldly man, he recited 12 more shlokas, all of them providing moral, intellectual instructions, illuminating and beneficial to all mankind, because he recited 12, one original shloka, initial one, plus 12 other shlokas. So these other shlokas have come to be known as Dvadasha Manjarika Stotram of Adi Shankara. Now, inspired with the preachings of the Master Shankara, all his followers, said to be about 14 in number, they all recited one shloka. So they all counted to 14, and they all have come to be known as Chaturdasha Manjarika Stotram. So one original shloka, 12 shlokas later on from Adi Shankara, and 14 from his disciples. And then Shankara was very content and very satisfied with the performance of his worthy disciples. So he recited as a benediction, meaning as Asirvada shlokas, he recited 4 more. So that 1 plus 14, 1 plus 12, 13 from Adi Shankara, and 14 from his disciple. In conclusion, 4 more shlokas, raising the sum total to 30 shlokas. The book is popularly known as Bhaja Govindam because it has the power to banish moha from one's heart. It's also called Moha Mudgara. The first 12 and the last 4 of this book are written by Shankara, as I just mentioned. From the 13th through the 26th, the composers are Shankara's disciples. The form, diction, the style of enunciation chosen, and the commanding tone adopted by Shankara in this book are very strange You're very unusual. It does not contain any of the warm cajolery, how your mom treats you or how my mom treated me. So it does not have the softness of the mother or the love of the mother. Rather, it has the persuasiveness, or rather, it has the sternness and the anger of a dutiful and I would say a hard-hearted father who wanted to fix his son to rectify his ways. That's because Shankara has appreciated the situation and its needs. In times of pressing need and great danger, there can be a breach of decorum. You can violate that. For example, it would be absurd, it would be foolish, it would be out of time and context and place if we looked for a pallaki or a royal palanquin to save a king from fire. In such a dire situation, if the king was unable to walk, what would you do? It would not be incorrect, it would not be improper even to drag him out of it. Saving king's life would be the prime need of the hour. Man, therefore, is also in a similar situation, sailing across the sea of this samsara samudramu or bhavasagaram, in his frail boat called Bhranti or illusion. He is perpetually tossed over by the waves of pain and pleasure. Sukha and dukkha, these are the tarangas, and so we are sailing in this ocean of samsara. Yet, the man sails on unheeding. We don't pay any attention to the warnings and we are unmindful of the impending peril. So Shankara wanted to save and redeem and transform this individual and via him all the mankind. So he resorts to stern, serious about exercising authority. And he uses severe words in this book, Paja Govindam. And therefore, the resonance of harsh words, strong and deep in tone, having a last effect on lashing scorn. So here we come to the first shloka. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrun karane bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati Karane. So these are the beginning words of Sri Shankara, Bhaja Govindam song. And so I think I'm 2 minutes late, so I can either stop here because of the time, or if you want, I can continue for a few more
minutes. We can't hear you, Dr. Raj. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So we'll stop here because there may be some questions.
Sure.
Because this is the first session. And Jyoti, would you please chant Hanuman Chalisa and then do Mangala Shloka? Then we'll have questions and answers.
Yes. जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीसति लोक उजागर रामदूत तुलित बलधामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरन विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज समारे लाए संजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हरषि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई सहस बदन तुम रोजस गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीना राम मिलाए राजपद दीना तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्र योजन भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम रे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज सम्हारो आपे तीनों लोक हाँकते कापे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम भजन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा के काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि अवनिधि के दाता असबर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुमरे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुमरे भजन राम को भावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवरपुर जाए जहाँ जन्मि हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित्त न धरई हनुमत से ये सर्व सुख करई संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई छूटहि बंधि महासुख होई जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साकी गौरी सा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरन मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुरभूप ओम असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमय ओम शांति शांति Shanti Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
Thank you. Now we are open for questions and answers for next good 5-6 minutes.
Raju.
Yes, Samba, please.
Namaskaram Gurugaru, Satyam garu.
Ayya Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva.
Janma Danyamaindi, me nota viranam.
Yeah, next time we should ask Ravi to join. I just so totally forgot to inform him. Sorry.
Thank you.
But we'll
Satyam.
send the recording. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Satyam garu, for doing this. I'll be here to listen to your next 4 lectures. And I'll be prepared to come with questions next time.
Abba, Ayya Samba Anna Mara Ambedi.
అంబ పక్కనే ఉన్నారు.
పక్కకే ఉంది వింటుంది తను.
ముందు అంబనే ఉంటారు, జనరల్ గా అంబనే ఉంటారు, సాంబానే కొంచెం అప్పుడప్పుడు వస్తా ఉంటారు.
సా అంబ కదా, అంబతో కూడి కదా.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's always next to me.
ఎప్పుడో ఫిలడెల్ఫియాలో చూసా 2014లో.
Yeah. And we have been regularly listening to these lectures these days, and it's very great to see you, Guru Garu, after a long time. Hope COVID is bringing us together now to be together.
Yes, yeah, thankful to COVID for certain things, and hopefully it will leave the good effects and then leave us. Murali or Dr. Biram or Venkatrao Garu. I know Venkatrao Garu, you are doing Bhaja Govindam in another session. Ram, anyone, please. Murali, Dr. Biram, or any of Satyam Garu's fans in other classes. Yeah, go ahead.
That was awe-inspiring presentation. I don't know why we didn't get him much earlier, Raju.
Actually, Dr. Satyam Garu is not new to Temple, Texas. He visited our temple. Satyam Garu, please tell. Yeah.
Who is speaking, Andy? Just for my information's sake, the name-wise.
This is Madhav.
Madhav?
Yes, Madhav Biram.
Madhav Sriram.
No, Biram. He's one of the founders of our Hindu temple.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And chairman of Hindu.
Wow, what a good name, huh? Madhava. Maunat Dhyanat Yogascha Vidhi Bharata Madhavam. The one that is acquired by Maunam, Dhyanam, and Yogam is known as Madhava.
So beautiful. It's Lord Shri Krishna says, none other than Krishna himself says this actually. Maunat, Dhyanat, Yogat, Mam Vidhi Pandava. Satyam Garu, anyone else please, before I say a word or two? Venkatrao Garu, or I know you are doing Bhaja Govindam in another session. Ram? Okay. So, Satyam Garu, just to complete those 10 Dashanami, I just Googled after you said, but you pretty much covered all of them. One is Aranya, Ashrama, Bharati, Giri, Parvata, Puri, Saraswati, Sagara, Tirtha, and Vana. So, you pretty much covered most of them. And then I heard from Swami Chinmayananda, I think, that Bhaja Govindam is also called Moha Mudgara.
Yes, I indicated that in the beginning of it, because it gets rid of our Brahma or Bhranti or illusion, because it gets rid of our Moha out of the Arishat Varga, the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madamatsarya. Because it rids us all of Moha, it has come to be known as Moha Mudgara.
Yeah. And another profound introduction to Bhaja Govindam, even though very succinct, is by Rajaji before Bhaja Govindam recording of MS Subbalakshmi's CD. So, but if time permits, I'll read in one of these sessions.
Sure.
Then
You have to pardon me because
yes,
I have a hearing impairment. So sometimes I capture the words properly, and sometimes I have a tendency, not by choice, but by my physiology or my anatomical impairment. So I have a little problem. I have both devices in my ears, and I try to pay attention as closely as possible. But because of the devices and everything else, there is some electronic distortion. So if I ask any of you to repeat what you said, please understand kindly why I am doing so.
Yes. Can you please tell us your experience and relation with Ganesha Temple and Temple, Texas?
My relationship to Ganesha Temple?
Yeah, I was, you told me that you visited once.
Yeah, you're talking about Omkara Mahaganapati Temple, who is hosting my lecture tonight. Okay,
yes, sir.
I would say in 2017, July or August of 2017, I think I had the privilege of visiting. August of 2017. So we visited Texas. And so we went to Houston. From there, we went to San Antonio, to Austin. So at the time, we had our close friends. When I was a professor at the University of Missouri in Kansas City in the College of Pharmacy, one of the students at that time was Ravi Kallur. So Ravi Kallur and his wife Jayada and their daughter, now it's a Dr. Soumya. So she and my daughter Pranava, they are of the same age. So they hosted us. So we stayed there, one night at Ravi's place and Jayada's place. So the following day before our departure and continuing our journey to Frisco, Texas, where we decided that we are going to make this place as our permanent abode. So then they have taken us to the temple. And so we had done some archana at the temple. And so that was the time that we visited. And we probably spent about, I would say maybe about one time we came in an evening and one time we came in the morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Ravi and Jayada Garu and Soumya are very close to all of us in Temple, Texas. Thank you, and thanks to them for bringing you. And we look forward to again every month, last Wednesday of the month. I know you have a busy schedule despite your work. And if anyone else is interested in Satyam Garu's Bhagavad Gita classes in Telugu through Hanuman Temple of Dallas, and
yeah, I mean, just a slight, respectfully so, a little correction. These are not Bhagavad Gita classes.
Okay.
These are basically the pravachanas.
Pravachanas.
Ordered by
Swamiji.
Ganapati Sachidananda Swamiji to give Vedanta lectures, but based on Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is Upanishad Sara, and then there is nothing there. I mean, it is sitting from in Mahabharata, and it has been rightfully said, Yanna Bharate, Tanna Bharate, Yat Na Bharate, whatever is not in Bharata, Na Bharate, that does not exist in Bharata Desha. So these are basically the discourses and the pravachanas that have been going on for 2 years. So for the first year, I would say up until this, I would say June or so, they were all in English. But at the request of the attendees and the participants, now they have been converted to Telugu. So those are 90-minute lectures. And these are not shloka and the meaning, but these more or less I would say the bhashyas are the commentaries from different sources. But more importantly, how do we utilize the teachings of Krishna in our daily life? May that be our profession, may that be our life, whatever, in our relationship with our human beings, our fellow human beings, relationship to our peers at work, relationship to our management. So a lot of things are there. So the daily life in Dainandina Jeevitamalo, మనం దీన్ని ఏ విధంగా మనము అన్వయించుకోవచ్చు, ఎలా ఉపయోగించుకోవచ్చు అనేటువంటిది అనమాట. And then, I mean, basically, if you take the first shloka itself, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavah mamaka pandavaschaiva kim akurvata sanjaya. So if you take the first shloka, begins with a mama, dharma. It begins with the word dharma, dharma kshetre. And in 18-78, it ends with the Sanjaya's word. So it began with the Dhritarashtra, a blind king, and it concludes with the Sanjaya's shloka, Yatra Yogeshvara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurthara, Atra Sri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. So the last word is mama, the first word is dharma. So if you transpose these two, dharma and mama becomes mama dharma, are my duty. So the entire Bhagavad Gita from the first word to the last word talks about my duty. So what am I supposed to do as a human being is all contained. So it's an owner's manual for human beings. That's all contained in Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can get or grasp some of that philosophy during these discourses on Bhaja Govindam as well. Then with that, I just want to conclude and thank you once again. Shubharatri.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I'm very blessed and honored. And just for record's sake, and just for your information, I do Arka Ganapati Archana every day. Arka Ganapati Ganapati, I have been doing that. See, Swamiji had given me, has come to our home and have given me Arka Ganapati and said, would you please do puja for this? So I have been ever since now doing that. Every day without miss, no matter what, regardless of the time, we'll do it.
Yeah, thank you. Shubharatri.
So that Ganapati has blessed me this way.
Yes, thank you. It's our blessings. Thank you. Actually, we
Thanks
are
for
blessed.
beautiful talk, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Shubharatri.